Hey everyone, it's Thomas Barld. Welcome back to some more MSEM. We're here in round 4 of the Grand Prix. We are nearing kind of like the midpoint, at least 3. This is going to be our 4th match played here in round 4. So after that, there will be 3 matches left, and we're off to the top X's once again. We've got CoolBeens here against Styles. CoolBeens is on a really nice blue-red Prowess deck, and then Styles is piloting a very interesting deck. So it's the Heart of Zadina that has been doing, fantastic. But instead of topping it off with the usual heart attack build, where you hit them with a big mastery of the Veil, instead we're going to be firing off a Dragon Calling, which for all intents and purposes is the Dragon Storm card. So we'll be getting a bunch of dragons out of our deck and just kind of like firing off anywhere between 2 or 3 dragons normally does it. You're gonna see if it fires off, you can't miss it. Turn 1 plays here. We got Valdez, format staple here, just ripping a card out of CoolBeans' hand. I believe the number that was named was low, so CoolBeans just threw away a Shroud and Stars. Let's just do a quick brief check in the hand. As we said, there's a Heart, got a Rampant Summit, we've got Dragon Calling, we have a Troteri Restoration. Really good way of ramping a lot of lands very early, and then Gate of Realms is an additional land search and kind of a payoff for going Wanderlust, differently named lands. Over in CoolBeans, as we saw, Shroud and Stars here, and it's a Prowess deck, so we've got cards like Seeker of Mysteries, we've got cards like Autumn Fae, Flying Prowess, or in this case, Flying Double Strike Prowess, and they get a lot of mileage out of pump spells such as Strong Arm, Shroud and Stars, and it's nice to see Mindstorm's Eye back in the mix. Haven't seen this card in quite some time. It used to be an instant, which was absolutely nuts, but now it's just, discard your hand, draw 3, deal 3 for 3 is still pretty good. So here's Troteri coming off. The way this card works is each player gets to search their library for a basic land card, gets a land card from their hand, and a land card from their graveyard, and they all enter the battlefield tapped. Then anybody who searched their library this way shuffles it. So you put everything face down, and then you just get it all back. So I think this was I didn't bother checking what land we had. I think it was Rousing Path. And yeah, so Rousing Path and a mountain will enter tapped. And over on Styles' side, we're going to go get this Lush Oasis and a Forest. So they should be tapped, I believe. Yeah. Well, I mean, here it didn't matter because we're untapping. But yeah, so we're going up to 3. So naturally, the way Troteri really functions is the person who's casting it really needs to be the one getting the most value out of it, or at least the most decisive value. But Beans now has essentially 4 mana to play before Styles does, if you play out the island, which can make a big difference. Might also not make a huge difference, is the thing. Styles' follow-up here, 4 unique lands for Heart is already a good start. Gate of Realms is really good. Doesn't have too much else in hand, though. So if CoolBeans can capitalize on this influx of resources, like we're doing here, so Strong Arm is also going to make a tap treasure. This gives +2/+1, and also we're going up to 4/3 flyer here. Autumn Fae doesn't have haste, so won't attack this turn. But it looks like we're firing everything off here. I'm not too surprised. Are we putting the counter on? Yep, Autumn Fae. All right, so it'll just be a permanent 1/2 double strike, which is pretty relevant. Style says but I mean, I understand the desire to keep at least a 1-point power on Autumn Fae at all times because it's chipping in for 2 damage. This hits for 5, and of course we're gonna fire off Mindstorm's. CoolBeans is gonna fire off Mindstorm's Eye, refilling the hand, dealing 3 damage. We'll have extra mana here from the treasure. I'm trying to move away from saying we. I tend to do default to saying we depending on whose turn it is. So I'm just going to default and try and work on, actually saying our player's name because I don't have anything. I'm just the commentator. Okay, well, this is pretty interesting. So mana overflow. Okay, so this is add red for each mountain land you control. Then exile the top 3 cards of your library. You can play one of those cards this turn. If you discard a card to Mana Overflow's glitch, you can change that mountain to just being add red for each land you control. So you can get a bit of mana off of Heart of Zadina. You can cash in some of it to get another burst of mana for mana overflow, and then it shouldn't take you too much longer to get up to Dragon Calling. I don't believe we have it this turn. You tap 1, 2, 3, 4 lands, and you've got 5. So you go 5, that's 6. 6 plus, you spend 4, so you have 2 left over. 2 plus another 5, 7. CoolBeens figuring out that this is why it's called Heart Attack. 7 is not 9, so unless I've miscounted here, I'm not sure we can get up to Dragon Calling, and of course we would only have the 1 dragon, which isn't normally lethal. So I'm not surprised. Here we go. Gate of Realms is actually a pretty good card. What's nice about getting all those land cards is eventually you'll have enough to turn the 3 damage mode on, and then because it can go after targets, you can start getting rid of these prowess beaters. So we know how much damage is coming next turn. So let's see. We've got 3 from here, which will increase each by 1, right? So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's a lot. You just need to find 1 more spell, and you've essentially gotten another 1, 2, 3, and that would be 12. So out of the 3 cards we're going to draw off of Mindstorm's Eye, I think that'll be it. Okay, so Heart was played this turn, hence why we didn't play this mountain. Again, I'm using these lovely DMU basics in the interim. If you have a basic land cycle that you would love to see, just let me know. I would be very happy to swap out the basics for something else. But in the meantime, I get to pick. So until someone in the comments takes me up on that offer again, we're running some really pretty full art basics. These are just absolutely gorgeous. I really wish I had more of these in paper. So we drew Nizev Enforcer. I firmly believe, I think in this case, considering that we have pretty much lethal, I don't remember if there's anything here that Styles could be pretending to hold up. I'd have to check the deck list real quick. For 2 mana, there's really nothing. But yeah, I guess running it out isn't bad. But you don't want to lose the value. So here's Mindstorm's Eye, 3 damage. Everything grows. We're going to draw 3 cards. That was almost really unlucky. Oh, and there's Scorch for the final 3 points of damage. So you fire off at Scorch, your opponent goes to 6. And then you attack for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There we go. A very fast and decisive game 1 here from the Prowess players. Was able to capitalize the fact that your opponent just didn't do anything to interact with your board. Not that there isn't things that it can do. It's running Biohazard. Gate of Realms can eventually do damage. But yeah, I mean, unless you're going up to a Tyrant, I guess Valdez sort of counts here, you're not doing much main board to deal with your opponent. So let's look at the sideboards here. Pardon me, I realize that I haven't tabbed over yet for all you streamers, for all you viewers here. So here's the list. I'm just going to do a quick check. Tyrant of Tributes, Shimmering Dragon is kind of like how you win. Chaos is your redemption, finds your missing pieces. We got a bunch of ramp and Triteri, Recall, Tend, and all that. So kind of what you imagine. Sideboard, there's more Valdez. There's Slippery Bunyip, if it would load. It counters enchantments, instants, and sorcery spells. So actually pretty decent, and then it becomes a 3-2 beater. Azaz is fine. Rot hits pretty much anything that your opponent does, and because it doesn't target, kind of gets around some of the protection. Biohazard is great. Isbarons is kind of interesting. I wonder if that comes in. Shikai's Readout and Mirrorgate probably don't. And over on CoolBeans' side, you got your usual 1-drops and 2-drops in terms of prowess beaters. Strong Arm, Shroud and Stars, Extreme Speed are fantastic, especially the fact that this gives haste. Scorch, Bite Blitz also gives haste. Festival Sabotage. Mindstorm's Eye is really cool. You've got the coal lines to, you're running less lands, which is really fantastic. And then in the sideboard, Sunken Ambitions, Flaming Point Technique is actually not bad. It can hit Intrepid, it can hit Gate of Realms. Spell Pierce is probably what's coming in here. I don't think Fork Pillar is going to see play, but Spell Pierce is pretty good for punishing some early Triteris. Looks like our players are already back in for game 2. A lot of Canadians in the lobby, apparently. Represent. Let's see what we got. So Wayfarer Shrine, Magmatic Torrent, Island. Looks like 3 great lands to get started off. You have a Spell Pierce in hand. You've got your Prowess here that can cast, more stuff from the yard thanks to Blade's Memory. Bite Blitz, and yeah, Strong Arm. That's not a horrible start. I quite like it. And then over here, I think Styles went down to 6. So, okay, we did see the Isbarons come in. Again, it's 2 in a tap, but I mean, if you're relying on just the 1 creature, it will do some work. Sad to see we're not using the very pretty re-art I did for, one of the master sets or the cubes. It's been a while. What was it in the cube? The Isbarons. Oh, it was in both. It was in Master 3 and the cube. So yeah, great card. It does a lot of work. There's a Heart in hand. There's a Triteri. The fact that there's fetch lands early this time around is nice for it, because you will get the fetch land out of the yard, but so will CoolBeens with the Wayfarer Shrine here. So because Styles is on the play, means that if we go for a turn 2 Triteri, okay, looks like that's going to resolve since we didn't hold up for Spell Pierce here. But that's all right. CoolBeens will get the Wayfarer Shrine back. We'll get a land from here, and we'll get the full 3, but so will both players. Getting an early Elrayan is also really good, because now whenever you tap another land for mana, has to be for mana, it gets creation counters, and then that makes it much easier with Heart of Zadina and Dragon Calling to get to that big number. So yeah, the one concern, a concern. I believe it's fine to run out your early Prowess. You really kind of need it to start dealing the damage. Just that we're not going to be able to use this Spell Pierce on this Resto here. So, but it's fine. It happens. So, Timber Range comes back. We're going to get a card from hand. I would probably put in the Timber Range from hand, just because now you don't have to pay 2 life for it, but it doesn't really matter too much. All right. Then we get another land from the library. It really makes for faster games. I mean, when your opponent gives you 3 lands, right, and you get to use them first, which has always been kind of like Triteri's weakness. Anyway, the card's getting a change, by the way. We just kind of like publicly announced it like moments ago in the server right as we were starting. But it's the fact that your opponent kind of gets first dig at it because it's a sorcery. Sometimes it can be really punishing. So, I mean, if CoolBeens draws something like really nuts here, CoolBeens will have 5 mana here on their turn. So can obviously run out another one of these, can give it haste, can pump it, and can hold up, the Spell Pierce. So we might see these shrines and the torrent being cracked here. I'm gonna imagine we're getting more mountains. I guess that makes sense with the Countess and stuff. Just want to make sure we don't lose your blue source, right? I mean, you have your island in hand, and you haven't played a land yet, so there's Frostfire. Right, now we're at the first main. Okay, we drew Seeker of Mysteries. That's always nice. The fact that Blade's Memory lets you cast instant sorcery from the graveyard, there's quite a few things you can do. So you could go, 1, 2, 3, cast something back if you really have to, like a Strong Arm, or quite a lot of flexibility. Though technically Bite Blitz has flashback by itself, so you might as well just use the flashback. Yeah, 5 mana Prowess. Well, we don't see it unless, your opponent uses Triteri. So, but let's talk mana for next turn, right? Styles is going to be able to play 1 more land from hand. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can tap all of that for mana. We're not going to quite get to Elrayan next turn, which is, kind of lucky, because otherwise things get a little nuts. But 1, 2, 3, 4 will give 6, 7, 8. We're at 8, right? Yeah. 6, 7, 8. I think that's how it's going to go. 8 is not 9. And without casting another spell, just getting the 1 dragon is okay. And it can't be countered, so you definitely can't use the Spell Pierce on it. But there's going to be a lot of damage coming through. And the fact that CoolBeens took game 1 means that even if Beans loses on this one, they get another shot at it. and they get to be on the play. So that's really important for this deck to have one of these turn one prowess cards even before your opponent does anything, because then it's a lot easier for you to hold up Spell Pierce and mess with their stuff. So the question is, like, are we going to start with another Enraptured Countess? Do we land Seeker of Mysteries and use Bite Blitz to give that haste? Because of the flashback, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could attack with all three. You would cast an instant or sorcery twice. So there would be, 3 prowess. So you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 damage. That puts your opponent down to 5. It's a lot. Your opponent doesn't have the kill. And by having 3 creatures out, you make it harder for, Isbarons to do a lot of work because they can prevent combat damage to one of them. And then as soon as they activate the ability, then you pump the other one. Because, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's almost enough with Strong Arm. And with your 2 Countesses on the field, you can exile Strong Arm again, as long as you do it at sorcery speed. So, yeah. All right, so here's Countess number 2. Oh, does it look like we're doing different plays than the full go wide? Okay, yeah. We would have run out the Seeker of Mysteries otherwise if we were planning on attacking with it this turn. Okay, so we're giving the +2 here to the Countess. It's still 6 damage. Still plenty. Okay, paying red. Okay, we're going with the strong arm plays instead. All right, still a bunch of damage. Maybe we're playing around the fact that Biohazard exists and we don't want to like overextend into everything that we have here. So here's another +2, +1. They're both going to grow. Still doing a lot of damage. 1, so that's 3, and then 2 power on each, and there's a tap treasure. It's not a trigger, so I believe that that has to happen because it's resolving the full effect of the spell. I'll ask them to hold, and I'll call a judge if I have to. All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, Cool's going to do it. It's not a trigger, so it's just resolution of a spell. I know not to call out missed triggers, but your opponent, I think, just either not gonna let you do it, or we'll see. All right. All right. So while players do that, guess what? We're gonna go take another peek back at the deck lists, and we'll be back in just a second as soon as that is run over. It gives me a little bit of a chance to run through some of the cards that we haven't really seen yet. So Tyrant of Tributes, Shimmering Dragon is the top end. I did want to point them out. So Tyrant is a 6/6 flyer. It's absolutely huge at 8 mana, but when it enters, the opponent has to sacrifice essentially half their permanents rounded up, and you gain X life. So absolutely nasty dragon. And then Shimmering Dragon is a flying haste 6/4 for 10, and whenever it attacks, for each creature you control, you get a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of it, including itself. exile the tokens beginning of the next end step. So it doesn't kill with just one copy, but 2 of these does kill because, you know, it's like 24 damage. Absolutely nuts. Chaos is Your Redemption is a cool little instant. You search your library for 3 differently named non-creature, non-land cards with mana value 3 or less that are not named Chaos is Your Redemption, few, and you exile them. If you manage to exile 3 cards this way, you get to cast one at random without paying its mana cost, and then the rest go back into your library. So you can find something like Treteri, Recall, Tend to the Grove, or Beyond All Horizons, any of these 3, and you'll always get a ramp off of it. So some good thinning, and it's nice to be able to cast a bunch of spells, because this will cast something, which might cast another spell, and then, you know, it's easier to sequence up. So good stuff here. What else do we got here that's really nice? Cards you would have seen before: Biohazard from last month, Gate of Realms, and Intrepid have been around for a while. Only 1 copy of Mana Overflow. Interesting. I guess that makes sense. You don't want to draw too many of those. We're seeing 2 pieces of Revelations, so these cards are just really good. Front side is on rate, and then the back side does the same effect twice. I mean, you get the regular sorcery effect, but you also get a huge body, so these cards are absolutely phenomenal. Dragon Calling is exactly what it sounds like. You run 4 because you have to find it to win. Biohazard is really good against a lot of opponents. It just nukes a board, and then they start, you know, hemorrhaging because of the spells and cards that they've drawn. And there's kind of like a backup plan where you can have like Intrepid and Gate of Realms start chipping in damage. So some really cool stuff. And I love the art on this Gate of Realms from Final Fantasy XIV. I believe it's the entrance to the Crystal Tower from A Realm Reborn. Very cool. We've already seen most of these. Oh yeah, so Azos can also come in. So it's applying 5/5 for 7, but the opponent reveals their hand. You choose any number of non-land cards in it and just absolutely exiles them. So I used to really worry about that card as a Merfolk player, because boy, sometimes things just get removed, you know. Very good card. What else we got? We said that was Styles, so let's check on CoolBeens. I think we've seen most of the deck already just by virtue of drawing a lot of stuff. We didn't have a chance to look over Extreme Speed for most of it does, so it's you pick one, it's a nice little charm. You either the next spell you cast has flash and can't be countered, something gets +2/+0 in haste, or something gets +1/+0 in first strike. So usually I believe it's the haste mode that we're using here, because it's kind of like a bite blitz that has a little more flexibility. Festival Sabotage is actually quite cool. It's 2 damage to any target, but you can also audition for red. So either you get a 1/1, or you can turn something into a 3/2 trample or a 2/2 prowess. And it gives, 3/2 trample gives 2/2 prowess. So it's very interesting how these rolls work. And of course, we've seen Mindstorm's Eye. The coal lines are the rail lines are cool. We're not using the fancy MSE art, but you know, regardless of which one we use, these are fantastic. They count as non-creature spells for prowess, and they just kind of like replace your lands, so they do a lot of work here. All right, players are still resolving the lovely little judge call here. Yeah. Sometimes it depends if like a judge is like super around or not, but in this case they were decently around. Just it's being resolved as we speak. Forked Pillar is a really cool card. It's just really strong. It's not going to do a lot against Styles' deck, but you know, there's a lot of other people who are running. Who was on the burn again? I do not remember. Was it Gynoid Poet? But I think Gynoid didn't make it past last round. Oh, I don't remember. Here, let's check real quick. Yeah, so you know, good against cards like this, right? Things that die, your creatures that you want to scavenge. Actually, it's quite good here against these cards. It's actually, funnily enough, it's good against this deck by itself, right? So 6 Requiem is also on the same, so that's also a deck that can be hit by that. But yeah, good stuff all around. But it looks like our players are ready to keep playing. So looks like we did get the treasure, or did we not get it? Object in the wrong zone with minimal disruption. Make the treasure token now. Sweet. Okay. So glad that that was fine. So. Alrighty. And yeah, we got to reset power and toughness. These aren't still that big. Styles is a bit of a tough spot here. Just finding lands. So, woof. Um, so again, I believe the fact that the Seeker is in hand means that Beans is playing around losing to a Biohazard, which I totally get, because Biohazard doesn't have to be cast for very big. But wow, passing the turn. Um, Isbaron's coming in, so it's gonna fog one of those. Probably won't make a difference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10, like we can. Bite Blitz is sorcery, so yeah, actually some of it has to be done ahead of time, especially with Blade's Memory being sorcery as well. So something to keep in mind. This is also sorcery. So that Isbarons might be able to eat one thing or prevent the combat damage for one thing, but not the full one. Which means Styles might have bought himself the turn that he needs to get the Dragon Calling going off, because next turn will be at 7, so this will generate 7 mana by 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 8, 9, yeah, we'll have enough. And obviously Elrayan will be there, so it just depends if we're able to cast more than just one spell, because Tyrant of Tributes will be really good, because it will gain a big chunk of life, but yeah. So here's Bite Blitz. Gonna give the first +2 +0 in haste, so this goes up to 4. 4/2 here. Essentially, if there's a way to, because that was what? That was 1, 2, 3, right? Okay, good. Making sure that that's a 4/2. You want to keep probably the Spell Pierce up, I kind of guess, but if not, you got 3 mana that might be Memory Strong Arm, but you can also just Festival Sabotage. So, cool. Sabotage. 2 damage to the face. Yep, is the same, because just gaining the 3 wouldn't do much more. And yep, Styles is at 6. So, we managed to get the 2 spells, which was what was important enough to get at least 6 damage between 2 creatures. So, that should be it. Wow, some really clean, good sequencing here. Yeah, we could have had this already on the field, but you know, if it was a Biohazard play around, that makes a lot of sense. So, we're going to draw one of the dragons, so kind of rough there. Yeah, I just drew a bunch of lands, which is a little rough, but it happens. So, good job for CoolBeens. We'll be heading off to the finals. So, great stuff. Great stuff. So, thanks for tuning in. Sorry about that long little judge call. Things happen, but yeah, there really wasn't much Styles could have done without drawing that Biohazard or some of the more some of the interaction pieces like Rot. And it's not a great matchup because a lot of that starts at 4 mana. But yeah, giving your opponent a lot of lands here actually played into giving like the wins early. So good job, my gosh, to both players. And thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.